The morning sun cascades golden light across the courthouse steps, casting long, ominous shadows. Kody Brown steps out of the sleek black SUV, his polished shoes clicking against the marble, as if marking the beat of an oncoming storm. There is a definite air of confidence in his stride, yet brittle, like glass teetering on the edge of shattering. Behind him, his legal team moves with silent efficiency, whispering last-minute strategies. Flipping through folders thick with contracts, financial records, and personal notes. But despite the professional veneer, the tension in Kody's shoulders betrays him. Today wasn't just another day in court. Today could redefine everything. Ahead of him, the huge and formidable courthouse doors seemed almost to dare him to enter. On the other side of those doors, in that stately courtroom, awaits David Woolley, a man whose calm exterior veils the razor-sharp precision of a seasoned strategist. Woolley doesn't rush. He doesn't panic. Every subtle gesture is deliberate, calculated, and designed to strike exactly where it hurts. For Kody, this isn't merely a legal battle. This is a confrontation where the stakes are personal, emotional, and potentially devastating. Inside the courtroom, Robyn sits stiffly in the front row. Her hands clutch a neatly folded piece of paper, her knuckles whitening as she alternates glances between Kody and Woolley. There's fear etched across her features, but beneath it, a flicker of hope. Somewhere deep inside, she knows the truth might finally surface. The truth she's been longing for, but has feared all her life. Christine, ever sharp and vigilant, leans back in her seat, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. Her eyes are sharp, almost predatory, scanning for weaknesses, inconsistencies, and any sign that Kody is vulnerable. Janelle shifts uncomfortably, her whisper to Meri eliciting barely a glance from the notebook she is scribbling in obsessively. Her face is stoic, really, but every detail speaks of a rising tempest. The furrow of her brow, the fingers that drum their rhythmic beat on the paper. Each wife has her own reasons for discontent. Each harbors secrets, resentments, and emotional scars that have been so carefully cloaked from public view. And now, here in this courtroom, every suppressed emotion is about to break loose. The session begins with the commanding slam of the judge's gavel. The sound echoes across the room, demanding order, attention, and implicitly, respect. A hush falls over the courtroom. The air is heavy, charged, almost electric. Lawyers shuffle papers, the rhythmic click of pens punctuating the silence like drumbeats signaling an approaching storm. Kody rises first, trying to project authority, confidence, and control. His voice is calm, measured, but beneath it, a subtle tremor betrays the pressure he is under. Across the room, Woolley remains unmoved, an island of composure, eyes like daggers, scanning, calculating, and waiting. The opening exchanges seem procedural at first, as if Woolley starts with small, almost insignificant questions, dates, contracts, and minor financial records. But Kody knows better. Every question is a probe to expose cracks in his carefully maintained facade. His responses are precise, controlled, but a faint flicker of unease, a brief hesitation, catches Woolley's sharp eyes instantly. This is the chess match Kody had hoped to avoid, and he's quickly coming to realize that Woolley has already worked out every defensive move. Tension hangs in the air, subtle yet suffocating. Robyn's eyes are fixed on Kody, searching for a sign, a hint of reassurance. Christine's stare pierces like a blade, challenging Kody silently accusing. Janelle fidgets, tapping her foot ever so slightly, betraying her anxiety. Meri remains still, a shadow of calm on the outside, but every subtle movement, tapping a pen, adjusting her glasses, speaks loudly of inner turmoil. Each wife reacts differently, yet they all share one thing in common: the mounting realization that today's events could change everything. Kody's attorney finally speaks, a rehearsed introduction designed to establish his client as competent and trustworthy, rational. Kody nods politely, but his mind races. Woolley doesn't respond immediately. He sits, silent, letting the words hang in the air, their weight amplifying with every passing second. The courtroom feels smaller, more suffocating, as if the walls themselves are pressing in, eager spectators to the unraveling drama. Then Woolley rises, slow, deliberate, almost casual, his calm disguising the precision of a predator ready to strike. He starts with minute details from the marriage contracts, his voice soft, almost conversational, but every sentence strategically loaded. Kody answers in an attempt to maintain control, but the cracks widen further with every response. Woolley's strategy is systematic. Take away Kody's credibility, question his decisions, and expose inconsistencies that are carefully hidden. The tension mounts as Woolley calls financial auditors and family advisors to the witness stand. With each testimony, patterns emerge: mismanaged funds, unexplained delays, questionable decisions that together form a picture of a person who has overstepped, miscalculated, and maybe even misled. Kody tries to interject explanations and justifications, but the cross-examination by Woolley is merciless. He leaves no room for escape, ambiguity, or space where Kody could regain full control. Robyn listens, her eyes glinting, torn between loyalty, hope, and fear. Christine bends slightly forward, a slight smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth, satisfaction barely contained. Janelle's body language shifts, tense, defensive, conflicted, while Meri continues to observe in silence, heavy with judgment. Each face is a story to be told, and the camera would catch each micro-movement. Jaws clenched, the racing blink of eyes, the slight twitch of a finger. The reporters murmur and shuffle papers outside, catching snippets of testimony, but the energy inside is personal and almost suffocating. No longer are the stakes only legal. They are deeply emotional. Every revelation, every hesitation, and every sigh carries weight. Kody, the man who projected control for decades, stands on precarious footing. The meticulous life he built financially, familially, and emotionally is being dissected in front of the eyes that mattered most, piece by painful piece. As the session wears on, court watchers observe subtle shifts. Kody's confidence falters, ever so slightly. A hint of defensiveness cracks into his tone. Woolley's calmness is jarring contrast. Kody's vulnerability is made evident by that calm. The wives' reactions served only to increase the tension even higher. Robyn's hands shake slightly as she adjusts the note in her lap. Christine's eyes sharpen, calculating. Janelle bites her lip with shock and anticipation. Meri's stare gets sharper, more accusatory. This climax of this first act of the fight in the courtroom sets the stage for the remainder of the drama. The audience senses the underlying power struggle. Kody attempting to maintain dominance, while Woolley, patient and strategic, gradually shifts the balance. Every word counted. Every glance carried weight. Every pause felt monumental. By the end of this session, the cracks in Kody's control are visible, but the true effect has yet to be realized. The silent expressions on the wives, the subtle nodding, the almost imperceptible tension in the room, all signal that the first moves in this battle have been made. And the ripples are only beginning to spread. Kody exhales. A brief, almost imperceptible moment of human frailty in the otherwise tightly controlled mask. Woolley remains steady, an unshakable calm that serves only to heighten the drama. The judge calls for a short recess, and the room clears just enough to let tension simmer, leaving everyone to wait for the next act. The courtroom reconvenes after the brief recess, but the air now seems heavier, charged with anticipation. Kody Brown sits at the defense table, shoulders tense, his eyes scanning the room in careful calculation. Every glance, every movement is dissected. Across the aisle, David Woolley sits with the serene confidence of a man who knows the battle is already halfway won. His hands folded, his expression calm. He exudes a sense of control that only heightens the pressure on Kody. The first witness is called, a financial auditor who has spent months combing through the Brown family's complex web of accounts. The auditor rises, holding a thick binder of documents. "I've identified several discrepancies in Mr. Brown's financial reporting," he begins, his voice precise but calm. Each word lands like a stone thrown into a still pond, the ripples spreading, visible and impossible to ignore. Kody shifts uncomfortably, a bead of sweat forming at his temple. His attorney leans in, whispering reassurances, but the impact of the testimony is clear. Cracks in Kody's armor are widening. Christine leans forward, eyes sharp and unwavering. Finally, she says to herself in a barely heard mutter, but her satisfaction is palpable. Robyn's hands tighten onto the edge of the chair, knuckles white, mind racing. She wants to believe in Kody, wants to support him, but the evidence is mounting, and with each revelation, her hope falters slightly. Janelle exchanges a brief, weighted look with Meri. Both acknowledge the seismic shift occurring before them. The courtroom feels smaller, oppressive almost, every word and every movement magnified under the relentlessness of Woolley. Woolley rises slowly, and the room instinctively stills. His calm, commanding voice cuts through tension. "Mr. Brown, can you explain these inconsistencies in your financial reports?" he asks, placing a folder in front of Kody. The question seems simple, almost innocuous, but it betrays him. His well-thought-out explanations start to break down. One could almost feel tension ripple across the courtroom. It's no longer just a legal battle, but highly personal. As the cross-examination goes on, Woolley draws attention to small decisions that seemed inconsequential at the time, but that now weave a pattern of mismanagement and oversight. Kody attempts to respond, his voice steady but strained. But Woolley's questions are precise, each one a subtle blow to his credibility. It's clear to everyone present that Woolley's aim is not merely to expose errors, but to take down Kody's reputation entirely, piece by piece. The emotional undercurrent strengthens as Robyn is called to the stand. She rises slowly, bearing the weight of the moment with it. Her voice shakes a little as she tells of moments of secrecy, hidden decisions, and choices touching on her hurt directly. "I trusted him," she says softly, her eyes glinting, "and I feel betrayed." There is a hush in the courtroom, as though the words themselves have created a vacuum, sucking in every breath. Christine shifts, a small, almost imperceptible smirk of vindication appearing on her lips, while Janelle covers her face with her hand, fighting to maintain composure. Meri's gaze remains fixed, piercing, as if silently judging. Woolley does not interrupt. The weight of what Robyn says hangs in the air. Every word she utters bolsters his argument, solidifying an already packed emotional and factual foundation for his case. The wife's multiple emotions fly across the room, waves invisible, yet conflict, relief, anger, and sadness merge and swell in some manner that only heightens the dramatic tension. The audience is drawn in, feeling each hesitation, each glance, each word unspoken. Next, Woolley cites testimony from a longtime family advisor, someone who has been privy to the goings-on of the Brown family for years. Subtle but damning, the words of the advisor reveal mismanaged resources, broken promises, and manipulations masquerading as family strategy. Kody tries to defend himself, but with each response, another wave of evidence systematically dismantles the narrative he's held on to for so long. His composure cracks, and his audience can see the strain, a tension building since morning now boiling over. As Woolley goes on, he introduces personal letters, messages, and internal communications revealing not only financial missteps, but also emotional betrayals. The courtroom is silent, except for the careful turning of pages, the quiet scratching of pens over paper. Every single piece of evidence serves to paint Kody further and further into a deepening isolation, detailing decisions meant to alienate his family and pit him squarely against the very people with whom he professes to love. Robyn's hand shakes as she clutches at her chest. Christine leans forward, her eyes sharp, and Janelle's fingers drum nervously against her thigh. Meri merely remains composed, but her quiet judgment feels heavier than any accusation spoken aloud. Then comes the pivotal moment, a revelation that tips the emotional scales of the room completely. Woolley draws attention to a decision Kody had made in secret from his wives, one that was in direct contradiction to promises he had made. The courtroom exhales collectively. Robyn's eyes widen, tears threatening to fall, while Christine leans back, satisfied, but also grimly aware of the long-term implications. Janelle's lips part in disbelief, and even Meri allows a subtle reaction, just enough to reveal the personal weight of this revelation. Kody's jaw tightens. He speaks, but his words stumble, falter, and finally dissolve into silence. Woolley stops here, letting the moment settle, allowing the weight of testimony, letters, and emotional disclosures to press upon Kody like some physical force. The audience feels it too. The tension is almost unbearable, every heartbeat amplified. Every sigh echoing. Kody attempts some kind of weak counter, trying to regain some ground. But Woolley's next move is masterful. He calls a surprise witness, someone intimately familiar with both Kody's financial and emotional decisions. This person, calm yet resolute, delivers a statement that ties together all inconsistencies, all broken promises, and all concealed actions into a single, devastating narrative. The wives' reactions are swift and unbridled. Robyn swallows hard, fighting back tears. Christine's eyes sparkle with vindication and a touch of sadness. Janelle's body tenses as if bracing for impact, while Meri's silence becomes nearly unbearable, a mute storm of judgment and revelation. Kody's defenses crumble under the weight of the combined evidence, testimony, and emotional exposure. His well-crafted image, the one that held for decades, now falters in the glaring light of truth. The judge leans forward, sensing the emotional weight of the proceedings. Woolley's strategy has paid off, and the momentum has completely flipped. The courtroom energy that was once dominated by Kody's projected authority is now laden with uncertainty, emotion, and the palpable tension of what is to come. Every whisper, every movement, and every gaze adds to the overwhelming feeling that a defining moment in this case is at hand. One that will outline not just the legal outcome, but the emotional landscape for the Brown family for years to come. As the session nears its end, Woolley systematically lays out his final points. Inconsistencies in statements, evidence of emotional manipulation, and decisions made that directly harmed the very family Kody claimed to protect. Each point strikes like a hammer to steel. Kody silently shifts in his seat, trying to formulate responses, but the damage is already done. Every flicker of panic, every subtly told micro-expression about inner turmoil, plays across the faces of the audience. Finally, Woolley concludes this segment with a calm, calculated statement that summarizes everything brought out in this courtroom thus far. The effect is profound. Kody's authority, his credibility, his painstakingly managed control of the family narrative now dangles by a thread. The wives swap silent eye contact, heavy with emotion. Some relief, some shock, some long overdue vindication. The audience is left breathless and emotionally invested, desperate to see what will come next. The courtroom seems smaller now, almost claustrophobic. The tension is electric, a living thing, wrapping itself around every person present. Kody Brown sits at the defense table, shoulders square but noticeably tighter than before. His veneer of calm has started to crack, the subtle tremors betraying the pressure building inside him. Across the aisle, David Woolley sits like a master conductor, orchestrating a symphony of revelations. Each note carefully timed for maximum impact. The session opens with silence that is almost palpable. Woolley leans forward, his voice steady and deliberate, slicing the charged air. "Mr. Brown," he says, "you have argued your case with precision, but the facts speak a very different story." His hand sweeps to the papers on the table. Letters, financial records, messages exposing years of secret decisions. Each piece is selected with care. Every word, weighed for its power to dissect Kody's story. Kody rises, trying to answer. His voice is controlled, measured, but there's a slight quiver underneath the surface. Every word is weighed, carefully chosen, but the emotional intensity in the room starts to chip his composure away. He tries to deflect, to assert control, but Woolley's presence won't budge. The courtroom holds its collective breath, the audience feeling the weight of every pause, every glance, every heartbeat. Then Woolley starts in on Kody about his personal relationships, those choices that affected not only finances, but also the emotional well-being of his wives. He asks him about promises made and broken, decisions favoring one wife over another, and moments of secrecy that left the family fractured. Each question hits like a hammer blow. Kody responds, but his answers feel rehearsed, defensive, strained. The wives react immediately. Robyn's hands shake slightly, covering her face as she processes the truths she's long suspected. Christine leans forward, narrowing her eyes, her satisfaction tempered by the gravity of the revelations. Janelle bites her lip, fighting a mix of shock, anger, and sorrow, while Meri's silent, piercing gaze speaks volumes. Woolley now introduces an emotionally charged letter from one of the wives, detailing moments of betrayal, disappointment, and broken trust. The words are read aloud in the silent courtroom, each sentence heavier than the last. The effect is deep. Kody's face tightens, his jaw clenched in an effort not to break down. The weight of every word, each so palpably heavy, can almost be cut with a knife. Christine's voice cuts through the silence. This is exactly why we needed this truth. She whispers low, to herself almost, but loud enough for the room to catch the emotion. Robyn looks over at her. Tears well, and her inner struggle lies bare. Love, loyalty, fear, and disappointment colliding in a single moment. Janelle's hands shake a little, and her body language screams the internal struggle of wanting to see justice, but fearing the fallout of doing such. Even Meri, stoic and reserved, allows a slight shake of the head, a subtle acknowledgement of undeniable weight. Woolley reveals his surprise witness, a longtime friend of the family who has borne witness to its inner dynamics for years. The witness rises, their voice neither knocking nor calm, yet commanding attention. As they begin detailing moments of secrecy, favoritism, and manipulation, all directly implicating Kody. Gasps ripple through the courtroom, pens scratch furiously across notebooks, and eyes widen in incredulousness. Kody merely shifts uncomfortably as he realizes the walls of his control are crumbling around him. The tears flow freely now that Robyn's composure is broken. Her hands shake with the folding and unfolding of the note in her lap, a useless endeavor. Christine's face is impassive at this point, a mix of vindication and silent sadness. Janelle's body leans forward slightly, bracing herself as if physically absorbing the weight of the testimony. Meri doesn't flinch, her gaze sharp, an unspoken judgment cutting through Kody more deeply than any argument could. Woolley doesn't hurry. He lets the tension mount, every utterance, every look, every action heightening the emotional core. Kody gets up once more to try and defend himself, but his words fumble under the weight of combined evidence, testimony, and emotional exposure. One could feel the strain in his voice, the tremor in his hands, the subtle tightening of his posture, all silent signals of vulnerability. One emotional crescendo after another, Woolley reveals a number of messages, texts and emails between Kody and his wives, promising one thing and doing another. Making decisions without telling any of the wives. Robyn breathes shallowly, every word striking a chord of betrayal and heartbreak. Christine's eyes narrow. The satisfaction in her features is mingled with a tinge of sadness. Janelle's hands press against her thighs and grip tightly. Meri is still, her silence speaking volumes of quiet judgment. The audience is drawn into the emotional firestorm, feeling the weight of every declaration as if they'd been in the room. The courtroom goes silent. Woolley lunges forward, his demeanor calm but calculated, his voice addressing Kody directly. "Do you realize what consequences your decisions have?" he asks. Kody's response is measured but stumbling. He attempts to regain control over the situation, but the piling on of personal testimony, written evidence, and emotional confrontation cuts around him. Every argument he makes is weighted by undeniable truths, and the audience knows just how fragile that position is. Robyn momentarily rises, her voice breaking as she recounts moments of quiet despair, those times when she felt unseen and unheard, and undervalued when it came to decisions directly affecting her life. Christine interjects subtly, underlining the inconsistencies in Kody's narrative. Janelle becomes more observably reactive, her body leaning forward as if to steel herself against an emotional barrage. Meri continues silently, but the sharpness of her eyes is palpable. A window into how much she judges him. Finally, Woolley makes a statement that crystallizes this session's revelations. He connects the dots between financial mismanagement, emotional betrayals, and hidden decisions. His account is so well developed that Kody is left exposed, vulnerable. The courtroom collectively reacts. Wives, attorneys, judge, and those present in the courtroom. Each gasp, each whisper, each subtle movement underscores what the situation is. Kody's composure shakes. His hands slightly trembling, his eyes darting, seeking a strategy, a way to wrest back control. But the damage is done. Robyn's tears fall freely now. Christine leans back, a mix of satisfaction and sorrow in her eyes. Janelle swallows hard, her body tense, her hands gripping the edge of the table, while Meri's quiet judgment radiates like a shadow across the room. Kody, for the first time in years, is visibly shaken, confronted not by legal strategy alone, but by the full weight of emotional truth and personal accountability. The judge calls for a brief recess, and the room can finally exhale. But the tension doesn't dissipate. It lingers, electric and heavy, as each participant is lost in the gravity of what just unfolded. The audience is left panting, fully emotionally invested and desperate to know what comes next. Those first fissures in Kody's control have opened into full-on cracks. And it's promised that the next act will be even more dramatic. As the doors shut behind the last spectator, the courtroom remains thick with unspoken questions. What will Kody do? Can he recover from this? Or is this the start of the end? The wives exchange muted eye contact, each knowing that where the dynamics of trust, loyalty, and love were concerned, everything had changed irrevocably. The scene is set for the next confrontation, one that will push every emotion to the limit. The courtroom reconvenes after the recess. But the atmosphere has shifted. It feels electric, tense, almost suffocating, as if every breath taken carries the weight of what's already been revealed. Kody Brown sits at the defense table, shoulders tight, eyes darting from Woolley to the judge and back again. Each glance reveals cracks in the composure he's tried so hard to maintain. Across from him, David Woolley exudes calm authority, his hands folded neatly in front of him, eyes scanning the room with the precision of a seasoned strategist. Every subtle gesture signals control, every moment calculated to maximize impact. The wives sit with various levels of agitation. Robyn's hands are grasping at the edge of the chair for some reason, as if holding herself together. Christine leans forward, her sharp eyes boring into Kody through a mask of unreadability in her expression, while Janelle fidgets, glancing to Meri for silent reassurance. Meri, of course, is composed and observant, her silent presence heavy with judgment. The room is a perfect storm of bottled emotion, anticipation, and raw tension. Woolley rises again, calm, deliberate, and at once begins the session with a question designed to shift the emotional weight even further. "Mr. Brown," he says, "do you realize the impact of your decisions on your family, financially, emotionally, and personally?" Kody's response is measured, trying to assert authority, but his tone wavers under the weight of the truth being laid bare. The room listens intently. Every word, every pause carries significance. The first bombshell comes from an unexpected source, a long-standing family friend who has intimate knowledge of the Browns' inner workings. The friend rises, cool and collected, and starts to recall events that Kody had hoped would never see the light of day. Decisions made in secrecy, promises broken, and favoritism disguised as strategy are revealed one by one. The courtroom reacts immediately. Gasps ripple through the air. Pens scratch across legal pads, and eyes widen in disbelief. Kody shifts in his seat, the first visible signs of panic flickering across his face. Robyn bites her lip as tears threaten to spill. Her loyalty wrestles with the undeniable truth of revelations that turn everything upside down. Christine leans forward, a mix of satisfaction and solemnity etched on her face. Janelle's hands shake a little as they grasp the table, bracing for an impact. Even Meri allows a slight nod, acquiescence to the heavy weight of what is being revealed. The audience can feel every beat, every glance, every unspoken emotion. Woolley doesn't hurry. He allows the tension to build, letting each statement land fully before moving to the next. The evidence is not just factual, it's emotional too. Letters, messages, and documented promises show a pattern. Decisions that hurt the wives directly, actions that undermine trust, and moments of secrecy that now come back to haunt Kody. Each one chipped away at a long-crafted image. The session wears on, the emotional intensity ratcheted higher. Robyn is asked directly about the personal consequences of Kody's decisions. Her voice trembles as she recalls times when she felt unseen and unheard, her trust betrayed. "I tried to believe in him, to trust him, but I don't know if I can anymore," she confesses, her words heavy with heartbreak and desperation. Christine's face tightens, a mix of vindication and sorrow etched in the reality of Robyn's words. Janelle leans forward, almost as if physically absorbing the blow. Meri doesn't move, but her silent judgment slices through the room like a knife. Woolley then strategically introduces a series of financial records and communications that further dismantle Kody's credibility. Each document is taken out with caution and serves to point to inconsistent, unspoken decisions and poor management. Kody tries to explain, to take the reins back, but little by little, his emotional testimony tangles with factual evidence. His voice shakes, his fists clench, and in an on-screen close-up, strain can be read upon his face. Cameras click. Spectators whisper, but all eyes are on Kody. The tension is unbearable, almost tangible. Then a letter is read aloud, one Kody thought would never see the light of day. It details emotional betrayals, broken promises, and decisions made without the knowledge or consent of the wives. Gasps fill the room. Robyn's hands quake. Christine leans back, satisfied, yet at the same time pensive. Janelle swallows hard, and Meri's gaze sharpens. The effect is immediate and intense. Woolley waits, letting the weight of the revelation settle fully. Kody rises again, attempting a defense, but his words are met with calm, unyielding rebuttals. Each argument he presents is systematically dismantled. The courtroom feels like a pressure cooker. Every emotion amplified, every reaction magnified. Kody is no longer just facing a legal challenge. He's confronting the emotional consequences of years of decisions that have now been laid bare. The surprise witness from earlier steps forward again, adding layers of testimony that directly implicate Kody in decisions that favored some wives over others, creating an undeniable sense of betrayal. One can almost feel the tension building in the audience. It's almost not bearable. Robyn's tears fall openly now, mingling relief, sadness, and shock. Christine's face hardens, a mask of vindication and the weight of truth. Janelle's body language is tense, defensive, and Meri says nothing. The energy in the courtroom finally reaches its tipping point as Woolley starts to draw connections between the emotional and financial evidence, making a clear, undeniable line from Kody's decisions to the consequences they caused. The wives' reactions are visceral. Robyn looks broken yet resolute. Christine's eyes ablaze with clarity and judgment. Janelle fought for composure, while Meri was quiet, with a sense of finality upon her. Kody, for the first time in this battle, is visibly shaken. The judge, sensing the intensity, leans forward slightly, observing the unfolding drama. The courtroom is a mix of legal proceedings and raw emotion, with the personal stakes making every word feel heavier. Woolley's methodical dismantling of Kody's credibility is now reaching a point where recovery seems unlikely. Every glance, every pause, every piece of evidence pushes Kody toward the edge of defeat. As the session draws toward its climax, Woolley strategically lays out a final sequence. Letters, witnesses, and financial evidence all converging to paint a comprehensive picture of Kody's missteps. Each point is deliberate. Each argument is crafted for maximum emotional and legal impact. Kody struggles, his responses faltering, his composure slipping further. The audience feels the weight of the moment. Tension is almost unbearable. Robyn's sobs are quiet, present a human counterpoint to the cold precision of the legal dismantling. Christine's satisfaction is tempered by the weight of emotional fallout. Janelle leans forward, her hands clamping onto the table as if to brace herself, while the judgment in Meri's silence is nearly palpable, heavy and inescapable. Kody, finally cornered, sits back, the realization finally beginning to dawn on him that control is slipping through his fingers. The empire he built on authority, secrecy, and manipulation, now fragile, exposed, and vulnerable. Session ends with Woolley sitting back, tranquil, composed, and completely unshaken. Kody exhales quietly, his body language betraying the inner turmoil building inside him. The wives exchange looks of relief, disbelief, and an awareness that this tipping point has irretrievably altered the dynamics in their family. It leaves the audience gasping for breath, invested in emotions, and desperate for what is to come next. Briefly, the doors close as the judge calls for another recess, and the room remains abuzz with unspoken questions. Can Kody recover from this? How will the wives respond? And above all, what will happen when the final moves are made? The stage is all set for the next chapter, a confrontation where emotional and legal stakes collide with explosive intensity. The courtroom feels like it's holding its breath. Kody Brown sits at the defense table, his posture rigid but trembling at the edges. Every eye in the room is on him. The wives, the attorneys, the judge, even spectators in the gallery. Across the aisle, David Woolley remains unnervingly calm, the kind of composure that only comes from total preparation and absolute confidence. His presence alone commands the room. Every subtle gesture, every measured pause, is a deliberate move in a game of chess he's been planning for months. The session opens with a silence so thick it is almost choking. Woolley rises slowly, deliberately, in calm contrast to the storm brewing around Kody. He does not hurry. He doesn't need to. Every eye is already glued to him. "Mr. Brown," he begins, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of authority which allows no room for argument. "Today is the culmination of years of decisions, promises, and hidden actions. It's time to address them all." Kody rises, trying to show control, but the strain is apparent. His voice is measured, steady, but there's a slight quiver that gives away the burgeoning pressure inside him. He tries to confront Woolley's calm authority with his own, but Woolley's strategy is step by step, accurate, and unyielding. Every question, every observation, every gesture is designed to expose Kody's vulnerabilities and push the truth into the light. The first series of revelations is subtle, but damning. Woolley systematically outlines discrepancies in financial records, detailing misappropriated funds, secret expenses, and decisions made without consultation. Kody responds, trying to explain and restore some control, but his words ring increasingly hollow. The courtroom reacts. Robyn's hands shake as she clutches the edge of her seat, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and fear. Christine bends forward, her gaze piercing, satisfaction muted by the gravity of the moment. Janelle's body tenses, a physical reflection of the turmoil churning inside her, and Meri stays still, her calm intensity amplifying the tension in the room. Then, of course, there's the emotional climax. Woolley reveals a succession of personal letters and private messages, which detail broken promises, secretive decisions, and actions taken with the specific purpose of hurting the wives. The courtroom is rendered speechless as the words are read aloud. Robyn's tears flow freely now, each sentence striking like a hammer. Christine's eyes narrow, a complicated mashup of vindication and sorrow crossing her face. Janelle's hands tremble, gripping the table as she leans forward, while Meri's silent judgment cuts through the tension like a knife. Kody stands, again trying to regain control, but between the factual evidence and emotional testimonies, he is cornered. His defenses crumble beneath the onslaught. Woolley raises no voice, demands no attention. He doesn't need to. Each gesture, each well-placed pause, speaks volumes and increases the weight of the truth. Kody's eyes dart anxiously around, searching for a strategy that isn't there. Woolley produces a surprise witness, one who has been all too familiar with the financial and emotional dynamics of the Brown family. The witness rises, unruffled, confident, and begins to recall moments of favoritism, secrecy, and manipulation. Each testimony is quick, succinct, and deadly. The courtroom responds immediately. Gasps, murmurs, and furtive glances erupt through the room. Kody's composure slips further, his jaw clenched, hands clasping the table in mute despair. Robyn sobs softly and is emotionally exposed. Christine follows suit by leaning forward, narrowing her eyes as her sharp gaze fills up with judgment and quiet vindication. Janelle's breathing quickens, a bodily manifestation of her anxiety and anticipation. Meri says nothing. But the silence of her presence is overpowering, a reminder of the weight of collective truth weighing down on Kody. Woolley doesn't hurry. He lets the tension build, allowing each revelation to land fully. Then, with perfect timing, he strikes. He lays out a complete narrative of financial mismanagement, emotional betrayal, and secrecy, presenting one single, devastating story. The years of authority and control have been systematically dismantled, and there is no room for recovery. The courtroom reacts as one. The audience can literally feel the weight of each word, the subtle shift in energy, the undeniable truth setting in like a cold fog. Robyn rises, her voice trembling, to deliver an incredibly personal account of betrayal and heartbreak. "I trusted him," she says softly, tears streaming down her face, "and I feel completely deceived." Christine leans back, her expression a complex mix of triumph and sorrow. Janelle presses her palms against the table, body taut, and Meri's calm, unwavering gaze pierces through the room in silent testimony to the undeniable impact of the revelations. The judge has watched closely, his eyes sensing the tension, the emotion, the high stakes. Woolley allows a brief pause, letting the moment breathe, before calmly addressing Kody. "This is the culmination of every decision you've made that has impacted this family. Do you see now the consequences of your actions?" Kody opens his mouth to respond, but no words come. His silence speaks volumes. Shock, realization, the crushing weight of accountability. Woolley edges forward, his voice low, exuding calm which becomes authority. It is now time to accept that control, influence, and manipulation have their limits, he states in hushed tones. The negotiation has to stop here. The authority you always thought you possessed no longer belongs to you to command. And the courtroom responds immediately. Exclamations, muffled mutterings, and imperceptible expressions of relief surface in silent ripples around the room. Robyn sobs openly. Christine allows herself a faint, serious nod. Janelle lets out a sharp breath, and even Meri's silent observation rings with the weight of judgment not to be denied. He reveals his final piece of evidence, a written record of a series of secret decisions made directly against previous assurances given to the wives. The effect is immediate and overwhelming. Kody slumps a bit in his chair, the facade of control having shattered. Robyn's shoulders heave as she wipes her face, releasing pent-up emotion. Christine's features soften slightly, an acknowledgement in silence of the emotional burden. Janelle exhales, her body edging forward as if she might want to steel herself against the final judgment, while Meri's eyes remain firm, unyielding, and unrelenting. The courtroom is silent for a moment, every soul deeply wrapped up in the gravity of what has just occurred. Woolley sits back calm, composed, the epitome of precision and strategy. Kody slumps, silent, under the weight of undeniable truth. The wives look at each other meaningfully, each aware that this could be a turning point, both in a legal sense and an emotional, personal one. Finally, the judge speaks and calls the session to a temporary recess. The courtroom somewhat clears out, but it's still thick with energy, strained and relentless. The spectators, the attorneys, and even Kody himself are left to comprehend the reality of that final move. How Woolley's strategy has paid off in immeasurable ways, as Kody's negotiation, his authority, and the laboriously built narrative of control have been taken apart in just one masterful sequence. As the courtroom empties, the wives share silent glances. Robyn's tears mark relief and sadness. Christine's face displays quiet vindication, whereas the body of Janelle, which was tense for so long, slowly relaxed. Meri's reserved judgment is a reminder of the irreparable damage of Kody's actions. The audience was left with one undeniable truth. David Woolley's final move had not only ended Kody's negotiation, but in so many ways had reconfigured the emotional and relational landscape of the Brown family. The stage is now set for the next chapters. Emotions are raw, tension is high, and the audience can feel the impending confrontation looming, where every secret, betrayal, and unresolved tension will be addressed head-on. This is the point where control has shifted, and nothing will ever be the same.